what's up, mortals? It's FalonEcho here with a new video for you. Welcome to Season 1, Part 6 of What If Deku Became an Android. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. As was always the case whenever he got a moment to think, Izuku Midoriya was reflecting on his existence. Riding on the bus with his classmates on an excursion, he hadn't stopped thinking about what exactly he was. Although after his fight with Bakugo, it had stopped bothering him so much. I have a quirk now. I'm obviously different inside. I'm not used to myself yet, and that's probably all there is to it. After all, I'm a miracle. I need to stop complaining and work my hardest to take this chance and become a hero, Deku thought. Giving himself mental pep talks was becoming a habit of his, and lately they had been working better and better. The brunette smiled and shifted his eyes from his shoes to the window beside him. Yokojiro, sitting beside him, noticed this. "You're back, huh?" she said mockingly. "Something pop your bubble?" Deku looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're always in your own world, whenever we're not learning or training. Except this time, you're not looking at your shoes anymore, and you can hear when I'm talking to you." Yoka explained. Deku's face reddened. "So, there were times I didn't hear you talking to me?" he asked nervously. The girl let off an exasperated sigh. "You know, it's probably good that you didn't hear what I said that time," she replied. Deku chuckled. "Does that mean you don't want me to hear you?" he said before immediately wincing at how stupid that sounded. "No, wait. That's not what I meant. Hiro interrupted his rambling with a chuckle. "Yeah, for your sake, I'll put on these headphones and pretend I didn't hear that," she said, putting on said headphones. "That way you still have a..." She stopped herself mid-sentence. Izuku waited for a couple seconds before asking, "I still have a what?" The greenette was then stung by one of Jiro's extended earlobes. "Nothing," she answered before looking out the window. Deku looked at her a little confused before turning his head towards his own window. The class was approaching UA's Unforeseen Simulations Joint, or USJ for short. Their lesson was supposed to be with All Might, but as their newly elected class rep, Momo Yaoyorozu, had made sure to inform them, the #1 hero would be late for undisclosed reasons. Those reasons were in fact health-related. All Might was currently resting in Principal Nezu's office, sipping tea with the Mouse Bear Man, recovering stamina to be able to use his muscle form. "You really must choose between being a teacher and a hero. At the rate you're going, it'll be impossible to do both." The principal scolded All Might.
"I understand that, and to be honest, I think teaching is more important right now. My time as the symbol of peace won't last much longer. My successor has been chosen, and it's only right I help educate the heroes that will fight alongside him."
All Might answered.
But that isn't the main reason.
He added. Nezu nodded. "Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo, the two most dangerous students I have ever seen," the principal said in a surprisingly lighthearted tone.
"And the two with the greatest potential,"
All Might retorted. "Ah, but do those two not go hand in hand?" Nezu replied. All Might nodded.
"Them and their entire class have amazing potential, rivaling young Togata,"
the #1 hero said. Nezu looked thoughtful for a second. "If Mirio is free right now, we should have him head to the USJ. He will eventually meet Bakugo and Midoriya, and that meeting should likely be done under cooperative and friendly circumstances, such as the USJ excursion," Nezu said. All Might looked Nezu dead in the eyes.
"That's not the only reason you want him there. After the press attack,"
All Might answered. Nezu nodded calmly. "That is another reason. Regardless, I'll have him join Class 1A immediately," the principal said. Back at the USJ, Class 1A had just arrived. Greeting them was a hero in a large, full-body spacesuit. She introduced herself as 13, the space hero, whose quirk allowed her to create black holes with her fingertips.
"You have used your quirks to fight before, but today you'll be using your quirks to save others as opposed to damage them,"
13 started. However, something strange happened after she finished her sentence. The lights of the USJ flickered, and a black fog of sorts began spreading in the central area of the USJ. "Is this part of the lesson?" Tenya Ida asked, though his question was quickly answered as Aizawa put his goggles on. They helped his quirk by preventing others from seeing who he was looking at.
13, protect the students,
he said. This got the whole class abuzz. They were only further agitated as a crowd of violent-looking individuals began appearing from the black fog.
Who are they?
Momo asked. The class wouldn't like Aizawa's answer.
Those are villains.
The group of students was practically frozen in fear. Save for Bakugo, whose hands sparked with excitement. Villains. These are the kind of guys pro-heroes fight, Deku thought in fear. At the head of the villains was a man who seemed to be wearing human hands all over his body like ornaments, including one over his face like a mask.
Start the evacuation and get support!
Aizawa yelled at 13. The pro-hero obliged, directing the students toward the exit, as Aizawa dashed down to where the villains were, planning to take them on. Kirigiri, don't waste any time. All Might's not here, so let the doctor do his thing. Then we leave. A man whose body seemed to be made of smoke flew towards the students, expanding his body to surround them in a dome of smoke. It seemed to pull students away, sending them through foggy portals. Izuku found himself dragged into one of these portals and fell out in what he recognized as the ruined zone of the USJ. It simulated a post-disaster city. By his sides were two of his classmates, Tsuyu Asui, the girl with the frog quirk, and Minoru Mineta, a very short boy with a quirk that let him pull sticky purple balls off of his head.
Where are we?
Tsuyu asked. The ruined zone, Izuku replied. Besides the three students, the building they found themselves in seemed pretty empty. It's a simulation of a destroyed city, he explained. His classmates nodded. So how do you want to get out of here? Mineta asked. Well, first, Midoriya tried to answer. However, a loud crash drew the attention of all three students. A massive figure, tall and wide, had seemingly come in through the wall of the building they were in. Despite the fact that they were on at least the 10th floor, began walking towards them menacingly.
What in the?
Mineta started. Before he could finish his sentence, a massive fist found itself striking him. The small boy screamed in pain, flying through the air like a cannonball, likely getting flung to the other end of the ruin zone.
Asui, get back!
Deku yelled, unleashing a justice explosion towards the hulking figure. The two remaining students could see him clearly now. Being at least 7 feet tall, the man towered over them. He was dressed in strange green armor of sorts, with orange hair standing up in a messy mohawk. But what truly stood out about the man was his expression, or really his lack thereof. To Deku, his face almost looked like that of a machine. Cold blue eyes with a complete lack of any emotion whatsoever only enhanced this.
Get out of here! Try to reach the others! Don't stay here!
Deku yelled to Tsuyu as the intimidating figures walked towards them. They both knew the punch he'd thrown at Mineta was as strong as a smash from All Might. Tsuyu didn't argue.
Good luck.
Tsuyu said before leaping away. But before the frog girl could even land back onto the ground, the green-vested figure was in front of her. Deku watched in horror as the powerful being grabbed and flung the girl downwards, sending her crashing through the floors at the large apartment complex, crying out in shock. This cry turned into one of pain as she broke through floor after floor. Izuku heard the cry stop abruptly after about 5 floors. The greenhead balled his fists and grit his teeth as the tall man stared him down.
You won't get away with hurting my classmates, and I won't let you hurt anyone else. Why are you even doing this?
The boy asked, enraged.
They are distractions.
The figure said robotically.
I need to test Android M's combat capabilities.
Izuku was confused by this. What in the world is Android M? He wondered. Then, before he could even try to charge his energy, the hulking figure was in front of him. Despite his size, the robotic man moved at massive speeds. The distracted Deku couldn't react in time, and the fist sent him rocketing through 3 whole buildings before he stopped, leaving a line of Deku-shaped holes in the building walls. His vision was blurry, and his body felt the same kind of strange ache it had during the fight against Kachan, though a lot more intense. And the fist to his gut had left his midsection hurting like it had been hit by a cannonball, which, considering the man's strength, was likely not far off. But the boy wasn't going to just take the hit. Izuku saw his attacker dashing through the 3 buildings' walls like they were nothing more than cobwebs. Quickly, Deku began charging his energy. Justice! Explosion! He'd managed to gather enough energy into his palm to shoot out the explosive ball as the man was mere meters from him. The approaching orange-haired figure swatted the attack away like a fly. He stopped running a few feet from Izuku.
Disappointing,
He said, as emotionless as ever.
I was told to expect more.
Deku leapt to his feet. Durability was something he had an ample amount of, as well as pain tolerance. You'll need more than that to get me down, the student said as he jumped towards the huge armored man. If he couldn't win on strength, he would have to at least match his opponent's speed. Deku had jumped a good range higher than the armored man, unleashing another Justice explosion. Never getting too close to his opponent, he utilized every wall in the vicinity that was still intact to bounce around the man. The huge figure took a few swings, but Izuku managed to avoid them, pestering his attacker with the occasional Justice explosion or Justice flash. I'm gonna draw this out. Help is bound to arrive soon, and if I survive until then, until All Might gets here, this villain won't be able to hurt anyone else, Deku thought to himself as he tried increasing his speed further.
Your tactics are admirable. However, they are ineffective when faced with vastly superior power.
The hulking figure before him said. Deku tried to ignore this, but the fast-moving boy was not able to ignore his large opponent leaping off the ground at a calculated angle, slamming his huge shoulder right into the airborne student. Deku wheezed as the air was knocked out of him. The greenette was sent flying by the hit, but before he could get far, a large hand grabbed his leg and swung him downwards. Justice barrier! Deku yelled, creating a spherical energy shield around him as he broke floor after floor of the building from his fall. I can't take any more hits from him, Deku thought as the impact from his shield touching down created a crater in the ground floor. But before the boy could recover and come up with a plan of action, his opponent's armored feet broke through the energy shield and landed onto the boy with an impact strong enough to deepen the already massive crater in the ground. Gasping, the greenette was stunned, vision blurred, a sharp pain in his ribs and stomach. There was no doubt that something, or perhaps many things, inside him were now broken. Deku couldn't even get a thought together before he felt a kick hit him on the side, eliciting a yell from the boy as sharp pain shot through his midsection again. The student was launched into the air from the hit. The villain leapt into the air to join his victim, grabbing his head like it was a basketball. Ah! Deku's sentence was interrupted as the huge man essentially dunked the boy, throwing him full force back into the crater, deepening it further. It was as if Deku's body couldn't differentiate what pain was coming from where, because everywhere felt the same. It hurt. The pain managed to jumpstart his brain, which had been blacking out from the repeated head impacts. Can't let him hurt anyone else, he managed to think. But before he could do anything with this thought, his opponent grabbed the front of Izuku's hero suit and flung him back onto the ground with full force. Once again, the crater deepened from the impact. Coughing up blood, Izuku's vision was filled only with the emotionless face of the man before him. A single thought was able to fight through the pain and make its way to Izuku's mouth. You're not human, the boy said, coughing up some more blood. The villain looked down at Izuku.
Correct. I am Android 16.
The robot replied. Izuku heard the words, but the pain was too strong for him to process the information. Suddenly, Android 16 grabbed and flung Izuku back into the air.
Your test is not over,
he said, following the student into the air. He then punched him in the face with such force that the boy was sent into the next building. Deku's nervous system could barely process the impacts that followed. The android lifted the beaten body of the teen and began a mad run with Deku as a battering ram. The villain charged through the ruin zone, smashing every cement or brick wall he could, using the body of his victim. The two arrived at the ground floor of the building where Asui had been sent down to earlier. The android threw Deku into the air and punched him on his way down, sending him crashing into the ground floor. 16 then grabbed him by the legs, lifting him before swinging him face first into the ground over and over again, as though the boy was nothing more than a hammer beating in a particularly stubborn nail. Every time Izuku's face slammed into the ground, the floor cracked a little more. Every time the floor cracked, the bones in Izuku's face cracked a little too. Although they didn't break, his bones were shockingly durable. Izuku was barely conscious. He barely even realized Android 16 was dragging him across the floor, leaving a trail of blood from his face and stuffing his half-open mouth with a mix of broken flooring and cement dust. The huge robot then tossed Deku like an old rag. The boy slid across the ground, his limp body offering no resistance. The android examined Deku.
I will inform the doctor that this attempt was a failure. I will dispose of it now. It is of no more use to us,
he said. The huge man lifted his foot and prepared to crush Deku's head beneath it. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, Safari. If it's a browser, it has Honey. Honey automatically saves you money when you check out on sites like Amazon, Papa John's, and Kohl's. Wherever you shop, it's a good chance that Honey can save you money. All you have to do when checking out at these stores is to click that little orange button, and it will scan the entire internet and find discount codes for you. If there's a coupon code, they will find it. And if there's not a coupon code, you can rest assured that you're getting the best price possible. If you install Honey right now, you can save like $50 to $100 on your shopping, doing nothing. There's literally no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks. 10 million people use it. 100,000 5-star reviews. Unless you hate money, you should install Honey. At another zone of the USJ, Hyokajiro found herself beside Momo Yaoyorozu and the electric Denki Kaminari, surrounded by villains that wasted no time in attacking the 3 teenagers before them.
What's going on?
Denki asked.
I'm not sure.
Momo started, knocking out a villain with a staff.
But we need to get to cover and discuss something,
She said, struggling with another victim. Her quirk creation was immensely powerful, allowing her to create any object whose atomic configuration she understands, as long as she has enough lipids in her body.
I got this.
Jiro said confidently, plugging her earphone jacks into the ground. She could not only hear better with her extended earlobes, but she could also channel the vibrations of her heartbeat into them. And she did that now, creating a tremor running through the rocky ground, knocking a whole host of attacking villains off their feet. The 3 students were in the mountain zone, which meant finding cover after an attack of that magnitude wouldn't be difficult. Jiro, Momo, and Denki ducked behind some rocks.
All right, we need a plan of action.
Momo said.
We're in the mountain zone, so we won't be getting out of here easily. And our cover isn't that good. We'll be found soon enough. What if we...
Momo couldn't finish before the cover the 3 had taken was destroyed. The 3 heroes in training turned to notice that there was only a single villain before them. He looked like an old man, with long white hair and a bushy white mustache. But what threw the teens off was his head. His brain was showing clearly through a glass dome that replaced the top of his head. The 3 students immediately tried to find new cover. They could tell that this villain was different from the others they had faced. While the others were grunts with no real power, this man... Jiro had a relatively nice childhood. She couldn't say that she'd gone through any events that had made her genuinely fear for her life, but looking into those eyes had given her that level of fear. The man facing them put something the grunts didn't in the hearts of the students. He was a real threat, the kind 3 high schoolers had no chance against.
Hiding and for that matter resisting is useless against me.
The man yelled. Behind the rock, Kaminari looked toward the girls. I'm gonna try and shock him. You two try to get as far away as possible. I can't control my electricity, the normally happy-go-lucky boy said with a dead serious expression. Jiro nodded solemnly. Don't die, she said. Kaminari nodded and smiled in response and jumped out from the rocks. The girls dashed away, trying to keep low. Jiro noticed Momo trying to create something as they ran. Take this, Brainy! Kaminari yelled as he unleashed a massive amount of electricity. A villainous smile spread across the old man's face as he raised his hand. On it was a small circular pink button of sorts. As the electricity approached him, it seemed to all go into the old man's hand, not fazing him at all.
Your pathetic attacks won't work against energy absorption.
The old man mocked, laughing. Kaminari was almost completely drained from that attack, barely able to stop himself from going into his overloaded state, where he turns into a brain-dead idiot for some time. The drained teen was brought to his knees by an elbow to the chest from the shockingly fast old man.
You're useless to me,
the villain said, raising his hand and charging a ball of pink energy. Jiro watched from behind some faraway cover and was stunned. That looks like one of Deku's energy attacks, she thought. Then a loud bang shook her out of these thoughts. Momo had fired a cannon that she created, slumped over it from the physical toll the creation had taken on her. The cannonball became the target for the old man's energy attack. It was destroyed easily. Before the exhausted Momo could fire another shot, the villain looked toward the cannon and fired beams from his eyes. The cannon was effortlessly destroyed, creating an explosion that flung a barely conscious Momo out of her cover. Seemingly forgetting about the drained Kaminari before him, the old man jumped towards Momo's new position. The intelligent girl created a smoke grenade, covering them as a frantic Jiro managed to pick her up and move to a new location.
What are we gonna do?
The purple-haired girl thought. The old man laughed at this.
You cannot hide from me!
He yelled, firing a wave of pink energy from his hand, trying to wipe out all of the uneven rocks jutting out from the ground, acting as cover. Sure enough, Jiro found herself with nowhere to hide as the cover she had found was blown to bits by the energy wave.
Take this,
Momo said, barely holding on to consciousness. She handed Jiro a small ball of sorts.
You can do this,
the class rep said, voice trailing off as she passed out.
I can't fight him,
Jiro thought, softly letting Momo down onto the rocky ground.
I might not even be able to slow him down.
The old man was walking towards them in no real rush. He knew they wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Jiro grit her teeth and plugged her earphone jacks into the speakers on her boots.
Plus Ultra!
She yelled. She would have to put all her power into this attack. She used her heartbeat, channeling in conjunction with the speakers to unleash a massive wall of sound towards the villain. But this didn't even faze him. Jiro stopped the sound assault, backing away from the old man fearfully, tripping on Momo and falling to the ground.
You won't hurt my friend!
Jiro yelled, her voice breaking as she understood that she had nothing to back up her battle cry.
What kind of hero am I going to be? I can't even protect my friends,
Jiro thought. The old man walked towards them, grinning madly. A tear of despair leaking from the corner of her eyes, the purple-haired girl wildly tossed the ball that Momo had made at the villain. It turned out to be an impact grenade, blowing up in the man's face.
He was unfazed. I can't do anything,
Jiro thought, practically resigning herself to her fate.
You got into the same school that once accepted All Might? How pathetic,
the old man said. Jiro couldn't even move before he was in front of her. The man grabbed Jiro by her face. The girl uselessly struggled against the vice grip of the old man with her hands, while whipping and stinging him with her earphone jacks. Jiro was losing consciousness quickly. She felt as though her very life was getting drained out of her.
Sorry, Mom, Dad, Momo, Denki. Sorry, 1A. Sorry, Deku.
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Milas, Adam Zagel, Zill, Davbeat03, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members, Toya Costa, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364 and Knuckles, Remu Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Demonized Fox. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 18 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord, using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join our team. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and have a great day.